Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about Domo's Magic ETL. We have uploaded some data either through CSV connectors or from database or the Anaplan connector which we saw in my previous videos. So once you have brought the data into Domo, you will definitely most of the time need to transform it in a certain way or clean it, cleanse it, or do some operations on your raw data and make it report ready. So Domo Magic ETL is one of those tools that Domo provides for the same and a really wonderful tool. So let's get started with seeing what Domo's Magic ETL is and what it does. So get to your data first. Like this, I'm on my data set here, and you can then click on this tidy up this data set mm, button here. So as soon as you click on this, you are within the Domo Magic ETL. So this is a drag and drop tool. Basically, you get in your data set and you have a set of operations towards the left pane. You can drag whatever um, operation you want. We call them tiles. So yeah, you can drag and drop the tiles over here, connect to your source, and then operate on your data set. So this is how it works. So before we transform or we start transforming our data, we first need to understand what's the objective that we are, trying to achieve. You have to have an end goal in your mind. For example, this is sales by store data, which the name suggests that is some transactional data about sales happening in a store. So I'll give you some background. So this data is of a hypothetical store chain, a retail store chain, and this is a sales data which will have transaction and have some details like the product which was sold, the store at which the product was sold, or the transaction happened, the transaction ID, the transaction date and time, and so on. Okay. Now this is a typical transactions data, which means it will not have a lot of details about, for example, uh, product. Let's say product. So this will just have a product ID in it and won't have the product name, category, and other hierarchy related details, right? That will have to pull from some other master. We have a product master as well uploaded over here. So I'll quickly show you how you can do that, which means we have to do a join over here, right? So to do that, I'll add another source. I'll drag this input dataset tile over here, click on choose data. Let's say I want to bring in the product hierarchy. I just type product lookup, select this. Now, what's the operation that I want to do over here? The operation is a join. So I scroll down, I'll come to combine data. I click on join data. Like this, I'll connect both my data sets to the join tile. And once you do that, you see you get the join type option over here, the left and right tables over here. So I want to do a left outer. So I click on this option. Now I would have to specify my joining column, the key. So here the key would be product ID and here corresponding product ID, right? And it is asking me to fix a conflict. I think product ID is the conflict. What I would want to do is I would want to fix it from the right table and I just click on auto fix right and it will drop the product ID column. I'm fine with that. You can alternatively, rename it too, but I'll just drop it for the time being. Now let us have a look at this data. The data is tagged in this manner. You have transaction details, store details, the amount which was sold, so on and so forth. And let us look at the product lookup. So you'll have all the product related details over here with product ID as the primary key. Product ID, group, category, type, etc. Now once we join this, we can run the preview. So run preview helps you in applying, helps you in looking at the data or seeing the data once those steps have been applied. So we have started the preview and it has ended. So you can click on this preview and you see it starts with the transaction details, but as you scroll towards your right, you see you have your product details as well over here. So this is how you join the columns, or you join two different data sets. Now, for example, once you've joined it, you want uh, to remove certain columns. So there are ways to do that. You can come to utility. Either you can click on, or you can select the select column style for that, or you can select the alter columns. Okay. So alter columns allows you data type changes as well. Select columns will allow you only to either rename or select or drop columns, right? So let's go to select columns first. You come over here. Let's say I select all the columns. Now I want to rename this to transaction ID, transaction space ID. This is how you can do it. Now the same operation if you want to do using alter columns, you can click on this. You can type transaction ID. Now you get an option to rename it. So I can do the same over here, transaction ID. You get an option to change the data type as well. So in our case, this is an integer. I'll select and make this a text over here. Simple. You get an option to drop columns over here. So let's say I don't want these batch last and batch ID details. So I just select them and these columns will be dropped. Likewise, you can drop columns from here by not selecting them in the select. So let's say I don't want these columns, so I just do this and the columns are gone. So essentially, these two tiles are doing the same thing so far, except this tile is changing the data type, while this tile cannot change the data type directly. So I'll remove this. I'll go ahead with this option for now. Then you have an add formula tile. You can bring this over here, connect it, and you can do some manipulation or add some formula over here. For example, I wanted total sales column here, and its formula would be quantity sold multiplied by unit price. Doing this, I have added a new column. I'll run preview and see a new column of total sales would be added over here. So let's wait for the preview get completed. Yeah, it's done. I come over here, I click on preview, I go to the towards the end. I can see total sales over here. So my total sales column has been added over here. Now you just saw that I had to scroll towards the extreme right to look at this total sales column. Let's say I want to reorder it. So I can again use select columns over here to reorder my columns. It's one of the utilities again. I select all the columns and I just drag and drop it all the way to the, at the first position. I run the preview again and now you'll see that the total sales column moves to the first position. The preview is running. We'll have a look at it in a few. Yeah, it's ready. So you see total sales has come to the front, the first column. So these are a few operations that you can do. There are a lot more operations over here, and uh, these operations and tiles and options depend on your subscription. You may or you may not have all of these, but these ones right at the top, they are some common ones which are present uh, for all the instances, basically almost all the instances. Now, once you're confident that you have applied all of your transformations and you want a final output, just do this and connect the output dataset and give it a name. Let's say transformed sales by store. Now you can have more than one output datasets. Let's say you don't want that additional column and you want an output dataset without that additional column. You can branch it out like this. So transformed without total sales. Okay. Now give this data flow a name. So let's say sales by store transform. Done. Now what you need to do is click on this icon, save and run. Uh, when you uh, when you run it for the first time, Domo allows you to set a trigger. Like this data flow has to run to update the output data set, right? For example, there's a change in your transactions data set. You have got more transactions now. You would definitely want the same changes to be reflected in your output data set so that your data is up to date. So for that, you need to specify when this data flow or this ETL should run. Now to do that, you have to add a trigger. So the commonly used triggers are when all the data sets have run. So you click on this option, trigger when datasets update, dataset selected, both of them, which means when either of these datasets update or run, this particular data flow or ETL would also get refreshed. And this way, your data flow, output data set will remain up to date. So only run this data flow if these conditions are met. Datasets have updated, two of two. So I don't want this condition. I just want that this data flow to update as soon as any one of our uh, input data sets get refreshed. Okay. So I'll put my comment. You can put your comments over here, and I'll tell you why this is very important. First run, save and run. So as soon as I click on save and run, my data flow or the ETL will start running. As you can see, it is running over here. And there are a few more tabs which I'll explain what these tabs do. So let this complete. Okay, so this has run now. So our output data set is ready. And you can see we have got more columns over here. The rows remain the same, obviously, but the columns have increased. I'll go back. This is the lineage or lineage, whatever way you pronounce it. So this gives you a glimpse of how the data is traversing within Domo. So we know that we had these two data sets, we have joined them or transformed them, and we have got two output data sets out of that transformation. Then we have the history tab. History tabs tells you how your gives you the history of your data flow or ETL. Okay, you can track your data movement, input and output through this. The next one is your versions. So Domo, this is a very good feature of this ETL or data flow that ETL data flow, I would say Magic ETL data flow, that Domo allows you to keep a log or keep versions of your data flows. So let's say this was the version one, and that's why I asked you to always give a description to your data flow whenever or ETL whenever you are running it so that you can get back and track it. And not only it allows you to keep a version, it allows you to roll back as well. So for example, I make a change over here, I'll edit it, and let's say I remove this particular ETL branch. Come over here, I save and I'll tell that branch removed, and I'll save and run this. So as soon as I save and run, you'll see that I just have one output data set now as compared to my previous run, which had two output data sets. And let's get back to the versions now. Let's go to history and you see it has logged the change here as well. Now we have only one output data set. Now let's go to version history. So when we go to versions, you see that you see our comment that branch was removed. Now let's say if I edit it again, you'll see that the other branch and dataset does not exist. Now, if you want to roll back to your previous version, you just click on this, click on make version current, make current, and you see Domo is rolling it back. And you see a comment added over here, reset version to version 1. Now click on edit, and you see you got that branch and dataset back. So this is indeed really magical, as the name suggests, Magic ETL. So this is really helpful when you're working with a lot of data, you want to make a lot of changes. You don't need to remember what you applied last time, as this allows a quick rollback. So it's really handy and useful. And the first tab over here is the settings. Again, the same settings pertaining to your run or refresh of this ETL or data flow. You can click on this and you can play around this and select or choose a trigger of your need. So guys, this was mostly about the ETL, the Magic ETL or data flow in Domo. Magic ETL data flow, I would name it correctly, because data flows are also possible with SQL, which I'll definitely walk all of us through in our upcoming videos. So I hope this video was informative and helped you in your Domo journey. Stay tuned for more videos and more learning. Thank you.